Hello and welcome. I'm Eric Klein-Sorge, Chairman of the World Economic Development Alliance, and I'm excited to be your host today for this special podcast on lead nurturing and our exciting product, Lighthouse ED360. And I'm really excited today. It looks like we're going to be well attended. We've got some people from California, New York. Hi, Mike from Texas, Georgia. Got about 15 states represented here, and what I want to do is I want to walk through this presentation. Kind of, you can chime in and ask your questions as we go, and I'll either answer them, and don't ever feel that any question's too stupid, but I'll answer them, or I'll put them off till the end of the presentation and address them at that time. But Lighthouse ED360 and lead nurturing, how is that transforming the way economic development professionals are attracting and retaining companies in the 21st century? I believe that Lighthouse ED360, I've been searching and developing over the 20 years of business that we've been doing in terms of capturing and engaging with companies that are expanding or relocating. It is the tool that every economic developer must have. And there's some simple reasons that'll be addressed throughout this presentation that'll make that quite obvious. So let's dive right in. Meet Bob. He is, or she is, the typical economic development professional. All day there are certain things that they're trying to juggle. They're trying to put together grants, trying to put together meetings with their board, trying to work with the workforce development on an existing business that's trying to do some training with their companies, trying to put together programs with the local college, trying to get site approvals, trying to get city planning officials together to come together to sign off on a permit to allow someone to do something with their space. But while juggling these daily activities, proper project follow-up can slip through the cracks. And that's important, because how many times do you as an economic developer go to a trade show or meet someone at a dinner and find out that there's a potential, even if it's just a small potential, that a company is looking to expand or relocate. You come back to your office, you get fired up, you send off an email. 3 weeks later, you do some follow-up. Then you get pulled away, start doing some more juggling with your day-to-day activities, and then the follow-up falls through the cracks. There's not any consistent follow-through, and there's not really even a business process implemented to take them from meeting to capture all the way down to the close. So what are some of the challenges you guys have on a day-to-day basis and when you're doing marketing? First of all, there is almost no direct relationship between the marketing dollars that go out and the prospects that come in and are generated from that marketing. It's really hard to tell. You never know if you run an ad or if you do a trade show and somebody calls and follows up on some literature they picked up. No one really has a system in place to track that and come up with the ROI on what marketing dollars go out and what prospects are generated. And it's nearly impossible to implement a strategic and consistent plan for follow-up on inbound and outbound prospect generation programs, meaning your day-to-day activities are that constant juggle. And to sit down and properly put together a plan, it needs to be strategic and consistent, both for inbound and outbound, meaning if you're making outbound calls to a list of companies that you've been provided from the state, or you've put together a list, there needs to be a consistent and strategic plan. And what happens after initial contact? While everyone's goal is to convert leads, the gestation period, meaning how long it takes them to go from interest to attract to close to actually open up the new business, can take as long as 36 months. And average is anywhere from 24 to 36. We at WEDA, we like to focus on companies that are less than 36 months. Whenever we accelerate them and begin to actually engage with them and talk with them. If not, we suggest they dump into this lead nurturing campaign. There's too many people with immediate concerns, but the long-term concerns get left out. They get put on the back burner, and they begin to spoil, and they begin to feel neglected, even though they're just as important as some of the other ones. It's just not important to talk to them right now, personally. And thus the need for continued lead nurturing. We need to stay on top of those leads and keep your community on the radar scope. And then there's no real return on investment measurement in terms of cost per job created. And that's kind of an important way to look at it. Don't look at cost per lead, but if you invested $100,000 to $200,000 or $50,000 or $5,000 in your marketing, did it generate one new job? Because at the end of the day, isn't that what your job is to help market, to help build your community, and to help increase jobs. Jobs create a tax base. Those jobs buy homes. In fact, one job, and you could write this down, one new job created in a community, the national average is over a $700,000 impact. And you're asking how? Well, that person buys homes. That person pays taxes. That person uses the local restaurants. That person turns on their electricity at night. That person has their family in to visit, which also do some of these trickle-down effects with the restaurants, gas, groceries. They have their family members move into the community. And all of a sudden you can see that add up. So when you consider one new job created translates into $700,000, you can kind of get excited about a 5-man location or a 10-man location. And I know there's a challenge, and those come in droves and handfuls for larger communities. But even with a smaller community, the impact is so much greater. But the larger community, you can't forget about how much one new job impacts your community. So what are your challenges for time? You have a full-time job establishing relationships, building networks, generating resources to meet their business needs, and your primary goal is to increase economic viability in your community. You also spend your time doing these things: working with city managers, conducting visitations and existing business leaders, going out to the community and shaking the hands of your local businesses, making sure that their needs are being met, make sure that they're a happy participant in the community. You're out there providing businesses with assistance. What do they need to make their business more successful? Then you get pulled away to attend some meetings. Then you go back to your office and you got to get into some administering of and managing grants, implementing business recognition programs. Then you go out and you do some target industry studies, labor market studies for a company that's looking and considering your area, but they need those things done. Assessing community and creating an ongoing profile for your community. Tracking vacant industrial sites and facilities inventory, and is it in the database? Is it one you want to showcase? Has it sold? If it has, does it come off your database? Holding business familiarization, sorry, that's a hard word to say, but those are easier, and that's why they call them FAM tours for potential new businesses. You can see there's a lot that takes up your day, and there's too many things to do and not enough of you to get them done. So why lead nurturing? And if you take a look at this graphic on the right over here, it's a nice graphic. It kind of shows you the funnel of what lead nurturing does. It takes, some of your marketing suspects, and then and where are those coming in? What are the entry points into your lead nurturing program? Are they website visitors? Did they come to you from a trade show that you just attended? Did the state just drop you a lead and say, hey, here's Project Snow Cone, and they're looking at opening up a paper and ice manufacturing facility. I need a response today. And all the different ways that they can come into the program. Then you kind of go into your effective messaging. What kind of messages can I give and deliver to capture those people's interest so that they'll continue to be engaged with my community? And then, in an ideal world, you're going out and collecting data. You're not just sending an email, you're collecting data. What are they clicking on? What are their interests? How many times did they click on that email? And you're building a profile. And once you build that profile and they give you these behaviors that indicate an interest, then and only then do they become a qualified lead. So they go all the way from a suspect and down here into the qualified lead section. And once they're in a qualified lead section, there's ways that you can accelerate those and push them through the process a little quicker. But the process from start to finish is consistent, and it's putting them through a systematic business process to qualify them. And once they're qualified, they're in your system, you're nurturing them, you're educating them, and you're sitting back waiting and wanting to find out when they're ready to talk with you. And ultimately, if you get the site location, it creates new jobs. So why lead nurturing? One good reason: increase productivity through the efficiency of automated marketing programs. And automation nowadays is not like days of the past. Sometimes it has a negative connotation. Automation is the same part, same look, same everything all the time. That's not the case. Automated marketing nowadays, with today's technology, is very custom and very personal. You're reacting to what they are interested in, and it looks like it's coming from you. With lead nurturing and Lighthouse ED360, we actually follow up on a consistent basis with 2,000 companies per month, or whatever program size you're in. But to be able to do that would be impossible without automation and customization. We use individual behavior and profile data to drive segmentation and email activity. And real simply, that means we have different buckets. Think of it as different types of buckets, and you have all these different people coming into your system, and all these people have different interests, and those interests are represented by buckets. So this one particular prospect you met at a trade show might be interested in your incentives, and this particular prospect might be interested in your workforce, and these particular prospects might be interested in a specific building that you have on the market. And those people get placed into these individual buckets and segmented out so that their email communications and their marketing to them is specific and addressing their needs, which keeps their interest, keeps their behavior profiles being built, and keeps them engaged in your nurturing program. It also, lead nurturing allows an acquisition of leads from a variety of sources. So don't think that lead nurturing is just email. It's a variety of sources. Again, we've talked about those, the trade shows, websites. But what we do is we program the system to accept those based on how they're entering into the system. Think of it as a coin slot. They're being put in here, and you're pushing F1 because you want the Snicker bar to come out, or you're putting E6 because you want the package of cum to come out of the machine. And those, based on how they're going in and what you're pushing, is what types of messaging these prospects or suspects at this point receive. And to create more qualified prospects and improved follow-up with consistency. And that's probably the most important thing. When you have consistency on a daily, weekly, monthly basis of a system that doesn't get tired, doesn't have a bad day, isn't feeling too ill today to get these things done, it administers it in a consistent and non-biased way. So what it's intended to do is put them through a consistent process so that prospect or suspect works its way through the system and isn't neglected. So what are I get a lot of questions. I've already had Mike, thank you for chiming in, Mike from Texas, about what type of lead nurturing systems are. I see Jim also from New York. You have the same type of question. These are endless. And typically what we do is we sit down and we ask you, what are your pain points? What are your needs? And some people come back with these types of nurturing programs. One could be a welcoming campaign for every business that comes and opens or expands within your community. They get put into a nurturing program that welcomes them, stays in touch with them, and is on a systematic process to make sure that the first 90 days of doing business in your community is successful. Re-engagement programs. When was the last time you were able to shake every business's hand in your community? You might be one of those that are on top of that, but if not, your job could be to go out and capture and to get all of the email addresses and physical addresses of your communities, pull them into a database. It could be from your chamber, it could be from some other source, and re-engage with them. Simply ask, hey, we haven't talked with you in a while, would love to come by and shake your hand, and have the lead nurturing program setting up appointments for you. Event driven. Let's say you're hosting a FAM tour. You have a group of projects or suspects and corporate site locators you want to invite to the event, and if they don't open their emails or didn't see it, it kind of sends out an automatic reminder and drives them to a form for them to register for your event. That's possible. Promotion of existing buildings and sites, great one. Having a list of your properties, and each month showcasing one of them and sending out to the corporate site locator community. And one thing I want you to think about here as a side note, corporate site locators, I know they're not neglected. They've actually become a big target for economic developers, but the reason's simple. We began targeting and putting these people on our board because of one simple reason. If you work with 5,000 companies, there might be 3% of those that have some form of expansion or relocation plans. And if you're working with 3,000 site locators, each site locator represents an average of 6 projects per year. So now all of a sudden your information's getting in front of 18,000 potential projects, you know, and that's just some simple math, but I like to leverage and put my information into the best fish pond I can put it in front of. And it's always the old adage, it's always smart to fish where the fish are biting. And corporate site locators are a great audience for this. Referral and loyalty programs. We call it WOW. How are you wowing your existing businesses to want to engage with you, to want to support the community, and more importantly, to act as a testimonial whenever a project comes in, and a referral, so that they can come in and see how successful that they're doing in your community. Great way to use a nurturing program. Groundbreaking news and announcements. Always keeping the community and the businesses aware that others are expanding, others are growing, and give them the confidence that they're in a exciting, vibrant community. Appointment setting. Popular trend nowadays is to fly into a major city and set up 6 or 7 appointments with corporate site locators and businesses that are expanding, or that are on your hit list, and go in touch with them. A great way to put them on a 3-month program to go out and continually ask them to get the appointment and have your appointments set up with you. Now, don't think it's just going to set the appointment, and it can drive them to a calendar, and you can get on the calendar, but a lot of times it'll put it on your daily task list. It'll say, hey, this gentleman responded to your 6 emails, they're ready for you to set an appointment. Give them a call and learn about them before your appointment. And what's beautiful about that also, think of this, you can log in and you can see all the behavior. How many times did they open your emails? What did they click on? And that makes your conversation with them in the meeting much more meaningful, and lets you know which way to take the conversation. And probably the most basic but most important educational campaigns about your area. By the time they talk to you and they're wanting what we call raise their hand and talk with you, you want them to already be educated about your community. And by doing that, that allows them to focus on what buildings, what specifics they want in their building, in their new site, because they're already interested and educated. So these are just a few of the ways that you can put together some lead nurturing programs, and I'm sure there's a lot of good ideas. This is a good time for you to chime in with some ideas of your own. And that's a great one, Mike. Thank you. Sending out annual surveys to your community to find out what their needs are, to find out and identify some clustering. Great idea. But let your ideas flow. But the important thing to know is you can customize these to exactly meet your needs. Accelerated programs. Now this is probably the most technical word, if you will, in the whole program, and it's really geared towards our gold and platinum Lighthouse ED360 programs. And all it does, instead of just a nurturing or an educational campaign, there's an accelerated program. So what it does is it scores. So accelerators programs attempt to move prospects along the decision cycle faster by providing relevant nudges at the right time, usually triggered by specific behaviors or actions. So what that means is we'll send out an email and drive them to do an action. Download a white paper, download a document, click on a link to view something on a landing page or a website. And if they exhibit that behavior, we can track that and we can score it. And once they do something, what we call a benchmark, once they exhibit that behavior, we push them through an accelerated program, and we try to immediately get them to raise their hand and set an appointment with us. And we do it in a kind of a background sense, so that it doesn't irritate the project, but it sits there and continually pushes them up to engage with you and talk with you. And if that doesn't happen, all it does is it drops back into the nurturing program and sends out the next message. And as soon as a prospect raises their hand, and that's why I just kind of explained, takes a specific action or reaches a specific lead score, they're quickly routed down an accelerated path. The lead score there, if you will, we give ratings to: if they open up an email, it might be 2 points. If they click on an internal link that says they're interested in your area, that might be 80 points. If they open up an email more than 5 times, it might be a 90 score. And so as this score grows and this behavior pattern continues to build, their score gets higher and they become a more valuable suspect or a more engaged suspect in your system. And you can actually trigger the system to say, hey, when they reach a score of 750, I got to call them. I just want to reach out and find out why there's so much activity going on with them and see if I can help personally. So, some sample landing pages. I have a lot of people ask, what's a landing page for? And I know a lot of people know what they look like. I know how they might know how to produce them. But the most important thing that you want to keep in mind, a landing page is intended for one thing. And I was told this by an executive from Google, and it made so much sense to me. When somebody goes out and does a Google search, what are they actually doing? They're trying to engage and start a conversation with someone. Meaning they're going out and they've got something at that exact moment, at that exact time. They want to find an answer. So they're out there going, available properties in Georgia, available properties in New York, best incentives in Texas. Whatever those are, they are looking for specific needs and answers to their questions, and they're starting a conversation. And once they find that link, they click on that link, they want that conversation to continue. The worst thing you can do is drive a person from a Google link or a Google AdWord buy and drive them straight to a generic website. What that screams to the project or the person that's the visitor coming into your website from that link is, I don't really want to talk to you. I'm not interested. A landing page is used to exhibit your interest in talking with them because you're addressing their specific need. If they say, hey, I want to learn more about incentives, and you drive them to a landing page that's geared towards your incentives or available properties, you're saying to that prospect, I'm interested in what you're saying and I'm listening. Let's continue this conversation. And a landing page gives them just enough information so that they have to do something to engage with you. If you give them a landing page that answers all their questions, you go from a site selection process to a deselection process. And you want to give them just enough information that they have to ask some additional questions, whether or not that's through email, whether or not that's through an appointment, a consultation, however it is. So some tactical strategy of engagement and conversation of suspects. This here kind of flow charts how lead nurturing works and how these people go into different buckets. So if you're sending out a generic email and it has a survey, so you send out your unique selling proposition and you have this survey down here, that it kind of gives you what their interest is or what lies on the horizon for them, because they're starting that conversation. And they might say, I'm interested in tax abatements, and if they do, then they might download a white paper on incentives. And if they don't, and they click on the survey or whatnot, that they're interested in workforce, these are different buckets that they're put into, and they begin receiving information, and they go into a lead nurturing system to educate them and keep them informed of tax abatements, keep them informed of workforce, and always asking them if you're addressing their needs, and doing that on a consistent basis, on a month-to-month basis format. So this here, if you will, is just a flow chart, and that's actually what we do with you. We sit down and we talk about what are the needs, what are the unique selling propositions your community has, and what is the type of nurturing program that you're going to, because that'll drive what kind of information we're putting together. If you're trying to sell a specific building, that might be a different type of suspect that we're putting into the system. If you're trying to sell incentives, or if you're trying to sell quality of life, logistics, location, those types of things, new federal guidelines that make it very proactive to do business, those are all different little buckets we can put them into. So what is the power of automation? By using WEDA's marketing automation and lead nurturing programs, you can focus on what matters most, thus allowing your custom nurturing program to do these following things. Develop increased interest in your community by nurturing previous and current project suspects. And don't discount. If somebody's been in your system for 3 years, 2 years, however long, it's a good time to just put a fresh look on what you're doing with them and send them out some new messaging and get them into a consistent follow-up. Use individual behavior to profile the leads. What are they doing with your emails? Are you gathering that data? And based on how they're responding, are you responding back to them accordingly to what they're asking for and in a timely manner? Automation can do this. Automatically score leads. We talked about putting lead scores and getting those people to raise their hands, but you can automate the lead scoring process by defined criteria, and by doing that you can route qualified leads to the appropriate channels. Increase site inquiries by allowing constant mining for qualified leads through proven channels of marketing. And proven channels means you're always testing. You're testing your subject lines. You're doing A/B split testing. And A/B split testing means, let's say you have a list of 1,000 people that you want to engage with, and you might send out the first 20%, 10% with an A message, and 10% with a B message, and put a timer on that and say after an hour or after 2 hours, which one ever is getting the most open rates, send the rest of the 80% that email, and therefore you're going to increase your success or your open rates on your emails. Remain on the radar scope of identified active projects. Very, very important. Not calling them, hounding them, asking them if they're ready to make a decision, if they're ready to talk about site location. Just keeping your message in a friendly format in front of them so that you're top of the mind awareness. It takes an average of 7 to 8 impressions for somebody to remember or to even take any kind of action. Do you want that to be you personally, or do you want it to be you through automation? Lead nurturing does that. Do more with less resources in a strategic and consistent format that you're able to track and measure success. How important is that statement right there? I talk with economic developers day in and day out, and Kimberly, thank you for the comment. My board asks me, she says, to do more with less money. And how many times are we approached with that nowadays? Board puts you in a corner, says, hey, we got less money, I need more results, and I need those in shorter time frame. There's only one way to do that: the power of automation. So that's it. That kind of gives you some basics about ED Lighthouse 360. I want to thank you guys for attending today, and I will be available. If you want to call me, you can call 1-800-632-WEDA, which is 9332, and I am extension 1. I'll be more than glad to talk with you, work with you, and help you identify your perfect lead nurturing program. And just ask yourself, isn't it time? Let WEDA put together a program and put the spotlight on your community. Thank you.